If a parent asked you right now why their child received that PE grade, how confident would you feel explaining it? Not how confident you should feel, but how confident you really feel. If you're a PE teacher like me, chances are you've probably felt that level of discomfort at some point in your career. And it's not because you don't understand movement. It's because we've been trying to assess invisible patterns with tools that only measure outcomes. That's why a PE assessment feels so damn hard. And once you actually see what's missing, you'll never look at PE assessment the same way again. Hi everybody, my name is Tim Starkey. I am the CEO and founder of Huddl. Most PE assessment falls under two different types of data. We've got qualitative, which is things that we observe, like our observations, and we've got quantitative, things like checklists and rubrics. Both feel familiar and both feel defensible, but neither truly capture the quality of movement accurately, which is the very thing that we teach every single day. So for decades, we've measured what's easy to measure, not what actually matters. Let me give you an example. You're assessing young Damien. Now, you're assessing his overarm throws and you give him 3 attempts. On his first throw, he throws one directly at your chest. Now, you obviously are trying to pay attention to all the mechanics that he's demonstrating. For example, he stands side to target, he bends his elbow, his opposite foot steps forward, etc., etc. But it happens so fast that you're only able to capture 1 or 2 mechanics. Now on his second throw, same again. On his third throw though, one sails wide and you start wondering how and why. You look down at your rubric and it will say something like, student stands side to target, bends their elbow, opposite foot steps forward and follows through. And in that moment, you hesitate, because the outcome was mostly successful, but the pattern wasn't consistent. One throw looked rushed, one lacked rotation, and one had great mechanics, but it completely missed the target. So instinctively, now you're not judging throws, you're judging consistency, patterns that your eyes were never designed to reliably capture. And consistency is the pattern. You see, rubrics try to break movement into nice, neat little categories. But real movement doesn't happen in neat boxes. Each of these criteria is happening in milliseconds, and we're expected to mentally track all of it across multiple attempts. There is so much more nuance to movement, and that's exhausting because we care about getting this right. But here's a key insight. Movement is a system. Every motor skill is a biomechanical system, but biomechanics can get pretty technical. So what we do as PE teachers is simplify them for our students. In the overhead throw, for example, we might say something like side to target, uppercase L, step, twist, throw. Simple as that. But underneath those cues lies so much more detail. Things like the kinetic chain, the trunk translation, shoulder rotation, elbow extension, wrist flexion, and force transfer. The problem with this is that human vision can't reliably track all of it. Our working memories simply cannot store all that information, and we definitely can't compare it across hundreds of students day in, day out. So essentially, we teach simplified biomechanics, but we assess outcomes. And that disconnect is the root of the problem. Why outcomes lie to us? A good outcome can happen with poor mechanics, but a poor outcome can happen with good mechanics. One performance looks successful, one doesn't. You see, real motor skill learning doesn't appear in speed, distance, or accuracy. It shows up in patterns. Their timing might tighten, their sequencing might improve, their coordination might improve. That's real learning. And it's exactly why outcomes flatten. That's why progress in PE often feels invisible. Not because it isn't happening, but because we've never been able to see it. Motor skill development doesn't progress in straight lines. Students have bad days just like we do. Sometimes they don't sleep well. Sometimes they had an argument with a friend or a family member and they just don't feel themselves. and sometimes this can impact their assessment performance. As PE teachers, we naturally lean on prior knowledge of a student's broader history to make sense of what we're seeing. We start filling in the gaps with what we know about that student, not necessarily just what we're seeing in that moment. Now, I'll admit, even I am guilty of giving a student a higher grade for a motor skill, full well knowing they didn't quite demonstrate that level of proficiency. But my prior knowledge should not tell me to round up their score just because I knew their sporting background. That's unfair, and it's subjective. That's judgment compensating for missing data. So when rubrics become overwhelming, outcomes lie to us, learning is non-linear, and skills happen faster than the human eye can reliably track, it becomes a tall order. Until now. Because you see, for the first time in history, we now have a tool capable of measuring the quality of movement, the quality of biomechanics. At Huddl, we've developed a tool called Skill Grader, and it will become the future of PE assessment. Advances in AI and computer vision now allow us to analyse human movement with a level of precision that just wasn't possible before. Skill Grader is capable of mapping a digital skeleton over a student and tracking 33 landmarks that represent things like joints, angles, timings, levers, rotations, and so much more. Skill Grader doesn't replace teacher judgment. In fact, it supports it. It gives you evidence where you used to rely on memory, patterns where you used to see snapshots, confidence where you used to second guess yourself. This is what evidence-informed PE assessment actually looks like. So the next time a parent asks you, why did my child get this grade? You don't have to defend yourself. You can just simply say, here's the evidence, here's what changed, and here's how they can improve. That's not just better assessment, that's a new era for physical education.